So the movie has been out for a month now, but I'm still buzzing about Dune Part 2. Also, with the trailer just dropping for Star Wars The Acolytes, it got me wondering, what did Frank Herbert think of Star Wars, and did the two ever meet? Dune was written in 1965 and is considered by many to be a milestone in science fiction. Indeed, the world building is staggering, and its message of religious zealots folded into a science fiction setting was light years ahead of its time. While, yes, the sci fi community has embraced this as a touchstone in the genre, there was another sci fi film that, shall we say, overshadowed it.
Star Wars, a billion years in the making, and it's coming to your galaxy this summer.
The people in this crowd will soon be among almost 40,000 who have seen a new science fiction movie at North Park Cinema 2. The movie is called Star Wars, and since it opened here 9 days ago, capacity crowds have filled the 1,100 seats in the theater almost daily. In only 9 days, Star Wars has grossed more money than any movie in Dallas history.
Well, I'm a real science fiction fan. I've got hundreds of science fiction books at home, and I think this is going to be a science fiction classic.
The first of what the makers of Star Wars hope will be thousands of queues started forming at 7 a.m. outside London's Dominion Cinema. Brought out by a publicity campaign of unprecedented proportions, the audience knew what they were after.
Well, we wanted to get in and see it on the only unreserved show, and it's booked through on the bookable shows right until March, and we couldn't afford to wait that long. And the prestige of being able to say you've seen Star Wars is something akin to royalty, really.
The film, which has already outstripped the legendary Jaws as a money spinner in America, tells an outer space war story with strange monsters, robots and special effects all made in British studios.
Everything was fantastic. Whoever wrote it had a fantastic imagination.
I think it was good.
Just good?
No, fantastic. It was exciting, but I didn't like the bit when the man chopped off the person's arm.
Why not?
Because there was blood.
Oh, but don't we like blood?
No.
Star Wars was a juggernaut at the box office, and the first film alone has raked in almost $1 billion. As a franchise, Star Wars ranks as the most profitable and recognizable. Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader are icons known around the globe. Dune has a loyal fan base, sure, but it never had that same kind of pop culture impact. Star Wars literally changed cinema. Most of the science fiction world was excited about Star Wars, which mixed science fiction with fantasy elements, but also told a very simple hero's journey. One guy that was not very impressed, however, was Dune author Frank Herbert. We know that Frank Herbert first became aware of Star Wars from his son, Brian. The son of the famed author called him saying, "You need to see it. The similarities are unbelievable." In his book, Dreamer of Dune, Brian went on to say, "The film was shocking to me for all the similarities between it and my father's book." But was it that similar? So let's break down the similarities. For clarity, I'm only going to be talking about the original 1977 Star Wars. Sorry, Space Slugs. Also, there are a few similarities that I feel like they're a bit of a stretch, so I'm going to leave those out as well. Tatooine and Dune. The Fremen and Tusken Raiders. Ben Gesserits and the Jedis. Space Princesses, Princess Leia and Princess Ulan. Frank Herbert first publicly talked about Star Wars to the Associated Press. In my research, I could only find one official reply from Lucas saying they both have deserts, and that's about it. So, not wanting to simply let it go, Herbert took a pretty petty swipe at Lucas in his book, Heretics of Dune. Like, the shade level is off the charts here. Here are a few points often cited: the use of a Rome-like empire, and building off of that, using said empire's political structure as a jumping off point. Also, both books focus on the regular people being able to alter the course of history. Both Foundation and Dune use chapter headers with in-universe writing. And there's a lot more, but my point being those in glass houses. But you never hear about this because Asimov likely didn't make a big deal about it, instead letting his work speak for itself. In a perfect world, Frank Herbert and George Lucas would have met, talked out any perceived differences, and really had an amazing kind of meeting of the minds between two legendary sci-fi geniuses. This sadly never happened, and the two, as far as I know, never met. And I think there's something incredibly sad about that fact. Lucas was never shy about giving credit to what inspired his works. So if Dune was a part of that, I don't understand why he wouldn't just come out and say so. Many works of fiction feature princesses, wise wizards, and the classic struggle between good and evil. As human beings, we are always going to be subject to our influences. George Lucas may have borrowed a tiny amount from Dune. However, Star Wars is a patchwork of many things. Yet Lucas was genius enough to boil it down into something that is fresh and exciting. It's sad that for the rest of his life, Frank Herbert was bitter. Me personally, I think the notion of Star Wars being a ripoff of Dune is just kind of silly. Did George Lucas borrow heavily from Dune? Is this just a matter of like parallel thought or coincidences? Please weigh in the comments. If you want to see the sources for my information, I will link that in the description. Personally, I don't think that George Lucas borrowed a lot from Dune. I think it's just coincidences. And as I said before, if he was going to list all these other influences, why not include Dune with that? Like, what would be the harm? Again, I want to know what y'all think, and please give this a like, subscribe, all that stuff. I try to make content on the daily. And as you can see, I definitely put a lot of work into it. I am getting better. So for those sticking with me, I appreciate it. And I will see y'all in the next video.
Whoa. Sandworms. You hate them, right? I hate them myself.
The spice. The spice.
Perhaps they could actually obtain the spice melange. They're here for the spice. I can sense it.
It was simply reflection. Fear is the killer. That's what grandmother wants you to learn.
It burns!
Listen to me. The spice must flow.